Hello. Welcome to the live stream. I want to welcome anybody who's watching live, and maybe if you're watching the recording, welcome too. This live stream is going to be Season 2, Episode 1. So I'm Peter, and I'll just start off with telling you a little bit about myself. I'm an instructor in engineering at a community college in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm also a blogger. I blog at pythonforunder.engineers.com, and I'm also an author. I've written the book Problem Solving with Python 3.7 edition, which you can pick up on Amazon. If you're following along with the stream, then you can also go to the GitHub repo for the stream. So here's my blog, here's my book, and then the GitHub repo is here at Professor Kazarnov, and then stream 2020. And so if you're in this GitHub repo, what we're doing today is Season 2, Episode 1, and we're going to start talking about some Python web technologies. So in each one of these episodes, we're going to address different Python web technology. And today, we're going to be going over Heroku. So here's a link to my blog, and here's a link to my book on Amazon. Quick, we're going to go over the code of conduct. So if you're participating in the stream, just make sure that you're friendly, patient, welcoming, considerate, respectful. Be careful in the words that you choose, either in the comments or replying to others. Moderate your expectations. I don't do this professionally. I do this for fun, trying to help connect and help other people learn about programming in Python. When we disagree, let's try to understand why, and a simple apology can go a long way. And if you feel that somebody is violating this code of conduct in the comments, please report it in a timely manner to this email address. Alright, so let's go back to the contents here. So we're going to be deploying a Jupyter Notebook online using a Python package called Voila. So Jupyter Notebook is a way to write and run Python code, and Voila is a way to turn those Jupyter Notebooks into working websites. So here is the documentation for Voila, and this is showing you one of these working websites. So this started out as a Jupyter Notebook. They're using the JupyterLab interface, and then when they deploy it with Voila, it turns into a website. So we're going to be following this blog post that I wrote about how to deploy a Jupyter Notebook online with Voila and Heroku. So in order to do this, we've got a couple of prerequisites. We need to make sure that we've got Python installed, and we need to make sure that we're either using Windows subsystem for Linux, Mac OS, or Linux itself. So right here I'm using Ubuntu 20.04, which is a Linux distribution, and the reason that that's important is that we're going to be using the Heroku CLI, the Heroku command line interface, and you can't use that interface unless you're on Windows subsystem for Linux, Mac OS, or a Linux distribution itself. So first up, we're going to install Voila and Jupyter in a Python virtual environment. So I'm going to open up a terminal, and let's change the preferences here so that our font size is a little bit bigger. Let's change this at least to maybe 22. And hopefully that means that you can see the terminal window here a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to move into, I guess, my documents directory. So cd into documents. And now that I'm here, I'm going to make a new folder, a new directory. So we'll do mkdir voila, and then we'll cd into that voila directory. So if we do a pwd, it tells us that we're in documents voila. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Python virtual environment using the venv module. So on this installation of Ubuntu, if I just type Python, it says that it can't find anything. But if I type Python 3, then that does run. Exit with open parentheses, close parentheses to get out of the Python prompt. So I'm going to use Python 3 to create the virtual environment rather than just Python, but it depends on how Python's installed on your system, whether you have to type Python 3 or whether you'll just have to type Python. So I'll do Python 3-m for a module, and then venv, and then we'll call the virtual environment venv. So this will create a new virtual environment, and now if I do ls, we can see the venv directory that contains our virtual environment. Now we'll activate our virtual environment so that we can install some things into it. So we'll do that with source venv/bin/activate. And then after that, what we're going to do is some installation. So where our virtual environment is active, we can see that because venv is here in front of our prompt. So we'll do pip install Jupyter. We'll also install matplotlib, and we'll also install Voila. And I think from the blog post, they also installed NumPy. So I guess we'll do that too. So this will collect the modules and install them into the virtual environment. So I'm going to take a little drink while that's happening. So our installation step is complete. So next what we're going to do is we're going to open up a Jupyter notebook, and then we're going to just stick in some real simple Python code to build an interactive plot. So we can do that by typing the command Jupyter space notebook. And this will open up a new web browser page. So we'll open a new Python 3 notebook, and let's call this maybe app, and then click rename, and the .ipynb extension gets added automatically, so we don't have to type that when we do a rename. So if I go back here, it says app.ipynb, it added the extension for us. We'll say a simple Voila app deployed with Heroku, and this is a markdown cell, so we'll select markdown here. Next, we'll stick in our code. So I'll go back to the blog post here, and we've got to do a couple imports. Those imports are for NumPy, Matplotlib, IPython widgets, and then we'll call the Matplotlib inline command as well. So I'll paste that in here. And now if I run this cell by clicking the run button or shift enter, hopefully this will run error-free because we've already installed these packages. So next we'll copy over the code. So this is just a simple function that builds a plot and then allows you to modify the plot by dragging some sliders around. So we'll do paste, and then we'll run. And here you can see our sine curve. If we change this A slider, that changes the amplitude of the curve. And if we change this F slider, that changes the frequency of the curve. Neat. So our Jupyter Notebook runs just great. So next what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can run Voila locally. If we can turn this into a website just locally and then be able to drag the sliders and do the same thing. So I'm going to go back to the Jupyter Notebook. I want to make sure that it is saved. And I think for right now I'll close the notebook windows. And then I'm going to stop the Jupyter Notebook file browser by hitting Control-C, and we'll say yes, we want to shut down the notebook server. Let's make sure Voila is installed. So we'll do Voila -- version. And it does give us a version number, so that looks like it works. So let's type Voila, and then let's do ls. So we've got this app.ipynb Jupyter Notebook. So we'll do Voila and app.ipynb. So that opens up a new web browser tab, and I'm going to zoom in just so this is a little bit bigger. You can see the markdown that we wrote, but none of the code that we wrote showed up. And here we can change the amplitude just like we did before, and we can change the frequency just like we did before, and the plot changes. So great, Voila is working locally. So I'm going to close this window and go back to the terminal, and I'll do Control-C to shut down Voila. So next, what we need to do is we need to deploy our app on Heroku, and in order to do that, we need to create 3 different files. And those are a requirements.txt file, a runtime.txt file, and a proc file. And we'll do this all from the terminal. So in this same directory, we'll run pip freeze, and then we'll pipe that to a file called requirements.txt. And now if we run ls, we see this requirements.txt file, and if we cat out that file, we can see the packages and the dependencies of those Python packages that we installed earlier with pip. Next, we need to create a runtime.txt file, and in that runtime.txt file, we'll specify the version of Python that we want Heroku to use. So in the blog post it says Python 3.76, but if I type Python here, I get Python 3.8.2. So that's the version that's running locally. So let's try, see if this works using Python 3.8.2, and if that doesn't work, then we'll change the version. So since this is really simple and easy to type out, I'm just going to use Nano, that built-in text editor in Linux distributions. So I'll do nano runtime.txt, and then here we'll type Python dash 3.8.2, and I'll do Control X to exit, Y for yes, Enter to save the file name. And now if we do cat runtime.txt, we can see Python 3.8.2. And if we type Python, that's the same version that we're running locally. So the final file that we need to create is another file that Heroku needs, and that's a proc file. And the proc file is pretty simple. So we'll create it with Nano again, and it's a capital P in proc and no file extension. So we want to type web:/voila, and then, to me this is a little confusing. It looks like in my web page here we've got dash dash port dash no browser, and I feel like those shouldn't have a double dash in front of them. So let's go to deploying Voila, and here is it with Binder. And here is the text. So I'm going to copy this from the Voila docs, and then I'll go back to my Nano here, and we'll paste. So hopefully that works. So we'll do Control X, Y for yes, and save it. Alright. So next what we need to do is to install the Heroku CLI. The Heroku CLI is the Heroku command line client. And I'm using Linux here. So if I go to this link about the Heroku CLI, and I go to download and install, it's got Mac OS, Windows, but here is the Ubuntu install command. So I'm going to copy that Ubuntu install command and go back to my browser and paste that command in. It'll ask me for my password, and now it will install the Heroku CLI. So it says Heroku is installed. So if we type Heroku and then -- version, it gives us a version number. So that looks like it installed and it worked okay. If you're on Mac OS, then the docs here say that you should use brew. And then I had a lot of trouble installing the Heroku CLI on Windows, only getting it to work on Windows subsystem for Linux. Okay, so next we're going to see if we can do this without creating the remote repo. Let's see if we can just do it with the git init command, and then maybe with git push Heroku master, see if that will work. Alright, so here I'm back in my terminal. We'll type git init to create a Git repository. We do ls-la. You can see now we've got this .git directory. And next we'll log into Heroku, and we'll do that with the Heroku Login command. So I'll type Heroku Login. And it says press any key to open up a browser or Q to exit. So it opened up a browser for me, and I'm going to put my private screen on here so that you don't see me logging in. So I'm clicking the login button. I'm typing in my email address and typing in my password. And clicking login. So that did not work. Let's try a different email address and a different password. That also didn't work. Okay. That did not work either. So I'm gonna have to click forgot your password. And now it says search your inbox. So I'm logging into my email, and And Heroku sent me a link. Now I'm resetting the password and confirming it and clicking Save Password, and it's been saved. So now let's try that new password. Haha! Sweet. Okay. So it says logged in. You can close this page and return to the CLI. So I'm going to close this web browser window, and it says that I am logged in. Alright, so next we'll type the Heroku create command. Heroku create. And it gave me this app name. I think if I do Heroku apps, then it gives me a list of my apps, and this is the one that we just created. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is our git push Heroku master command. I'm interested to see if this works without linking it to GitHub first, whether you can just do this even without logging in and linking the Git repo to GitHub. So that did not work. Okay, so I'm going to go to GitHub, and source RefSec does not match any. So let's go to GitHub and then create a new repository, and then we'll link it to that Git repository. Okay, so I'm back here at my GitHub, and I will create a new repository for this simple Voila app. So click the new repository up here on the right, and then we'll call this maybe Voila-app, and then we'll say this is a simple Voila app. And we'll make it private. We'll initialize with readme. We'll have the git and ignore for Python, and we'll make it GNU 3.0 for the license. So we'll hit create repository, and then here I'll push this code, and I'll copy the SSH address. So now back here at my command line, I'll do git remote add origin, and then paste the SSH address, and then we'll do git pull origin master, and then we'll do an ls, and it brought in that license and the readme, as well as if we do ls-la, the .gitignore file. And I want to make sure that it ignores the venv directory and that .ipynb checkpoints directory. So let's quick do nano git ignore, and I want it to make sure to ignore that directory. So we'll scroll way down here, and I'm pretty sure it already has this in here, but we'll do venv that environment, and then any .ipy nb checkpoints. So I'll do paste, and then exit, yes. Okay, then we'll do git add, and then git commit. Give us a little message here, and then we'll do git push origin master. Alright, so now that we did that, let's see if we can do git push Heroku master now. So I guess we did need to do that. It looks like our 3.8.2 worked. That's good. It's installing all of those packages now on Heroku. That looks like it's running okay. Having a little mid-live stream snack. We're about halfway in, right? A little snack is always good when you're doing some programming. So it looks like that worked. So now if we type Heroku open, says application error and the page could not be served. If you have application owner, check the logs. Heroku logs -- tail. App crashed. Method get, couldn't get the favicon. Alright, well, let's see. Let's try changing the Python version. So we'll do nano runtime.txt. Let's change this to what I had in the blog post, which was 3.7.1. 0.6. So we'll commit that change. And then we'll push it up to GitHub. And then we'll push it up to Heroku. So it's going to go through these build steps again. It means it's time for a little more snack. Oh, it's probably fascinating watching Heroku trying to go and somebody eating a snack, but we got time, so I'm having a little banana. Okay, so we'll try Heroku open. And that didn't work either. So we'll try Heroku logs -- tail. So still don't know why that's not working. Okay, a little bit of troubleshooting here. Let's see what we had in that proc file. Let's do nano proc file. What if we just do -- port and -- no browser? Because it looked like there was like a different character there. So we'll do git add, git commit, change dashes and proc file to -- instead of a long dash. Git push. Now we'll push it up to Heroku. So it says it's building from source. This time it shouldn't take quite as long because it already installed the requirements. I think I'm going to do this thing every time we deploy it to Heroku. We're going to have a little bit more snack. All right. Still an error. So I'm looking through these error logs. Let's try your notebook.ipynb. Okay, so why is that happening? So that would be why. Let's change this to app, because that's the name of our notebook. So I changed the notebook called in the proc file to app.ipynb. So now we'll push up to GitHub. I'm excited about my snack. Git push Heroku master. I have a good feeling about this one. Python has released a security upgrade. Upgrading to 378 is good, so we'll do 378 in there next time we do a deploy. Let's try Heroku open. Haha, this looks good. So this is running on the web. This is not running locally. Let's see if we can change the amplitude here. Oh yes. Let's change the frequency. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. This totally works. So we have successfully deployed a Voila app on Heroku. Okay, so I'm gonna take myself just a little bit of break here, and when we come back from the break, we're gonna see if we can solve this Stack Overflow question from this GitHub repo, and we'll see if we can get this one to work. So I'll be back in just like a minute or two here. Okay, I'm back. So we are going to see if we can solve this problem from Stack Overflow. So somebody is building a Heroku Voila app and they're getting some errors. So the GitHub repo can be found here, and we'll see from this GitHub repo will we be able to create the same problem. So we've got Proc File, requirements, runtime, and then this looks like it is the Jupyter Notebook. And they're using a couple of Python packages here. And then they've got a couple different functions and some data frames, and then building it out. Alright, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to fork this repo into my GitHub profile. So I do that by clicking the fork button. And now this same GitHub repo is now in my profile. So I'm going to copy the SSH, and this is one-dimensional Heroku. So back in the terminal, we'll go back a directory, and then we'll make a directory. We'll call that directory one-dimensional Heroku. Then we'll cd into that directory and do a git init and do a git remote add origin, and then paste the SSH address, and then we'll do a git pull origin master. Awesome. And now if we run ls, we get the requirements runtime of the user. So their runtime, let's see, cat runtime.txt 3.7.6, and then cat requirements.txt. They've got app mode, matplotlib, MIP, pandas, and Voila. So if we do create a virtual environment, so I need to deactivate the one that we're in now, and then we'll do python 3-m venv venv, and then we'll do source env/bin/activate to activate the virtual environment. And then we'll install the Python packages. So we'll install Jupyter because I want to run it locally first. We'll install app mode. We'll install matplotlib. We'll install MIP. Install pandas, and we'll install Voila. Now I haven't worked with the MIP package before, or the app mode package before. Okay. So now that those are all installed, if we do cat requirements.txt, then app mode, matplotlib, MIP, pandas, voila. And those are the packages that I installed. But if I do a pip freeze to requirements.txt and now do a cat requirements.txt, there are a whole lot more packages. Some of these are because I installed Jupyter, but probably some of them are dependencies of the other packages that were in this original requirements.txt file. So also let's do cat proc file, and this one also has this dashes, and I don't know if there's a problem with those dashes, so let's correct those. So if we type nano proc file, and then I'll just make these 2 regular dashes. Let's make sure this is 2 regular dashes. Then I'll X out of this and save it. And then I think I'm going to change the runtime to, because it said that there was a security fix for the Python version. So let's quick see what that version is. So we do python.org and then downloads and go to all releases. Looks like 3.7.8 is the most recent 3.7 release. So let's do 3.7.8. So we'll do nano runtime.txt and we'll change this to 3.7.8. Okay. Now I just want to run the Jupyter Notebook and see if I can get the Jupyter Notebook to run locally. Jupyter Notebook. Alright, so if I click this one-dimensional packing notebook, let's see if we can run this cell successfully. Okay, that works. So let's see if we can run that. That works. See if we can run that. That works. Now it's making a button. Another button. Another button. Checkbox. Okay, so this is creating the Jupyter Notebook widget. So let's see if we do that and that. Okay, and that upload thing works. Oh, I don't actually have any CSV files. Okay. It seems at least like some of that stuff works okay locally. this Jupyter Notebook code cell. Okay. Got some optimization stuff, and then a link out. Alright, so it sort of seemed like those all ran. So let me try one other thing. If we do kernel restart clear output, and then if we also do kernel restart run all, it looks like they all run. Now the one cell I'm not quite sure about is this one, because this isn't valid Python code, and there isn't like a file system on Heroku as far as I know, really. So you can't really like look for files because there isn't exactly a file system. So let's see if we can run this locally with Voila. So I'll close all these windows. Control C here to shut down the Jupyter Notebook server. And then I want to make sure I get the notebook name right. So if we do Voila, and then paste the notebook name. Okay. So we've got some links here. We can change that. Change that, we can change that, we can do optimize. And it says that is forbidden. Let's reload here. So at least it sort of comes up. The thing with the CSV files, that is going to be a little bit difficult because you can't really like upload something to the Heroku file system. But let's at least see if we can get like this, like change the stock length, change the curve, and change the green, because at least that part seems to be running locally fine. Okay. So I'll go back here. So let's add all of our changes, commit them, and push them up to GitHub from that original repo. Oh, I shouldn't have added those IPYNB checkpoint files. Yeah, that was a bad thing to do. I didn't ignore the virtual environment. So I definitely need to do that. Crap. So what should we do about that problem? Can we do git remove everything? How about git -- help? Move or rename a file. Rename a file. RM. Okay. So git rmvenv. Can I do -r venv? And then we also want to remove any IPython checkpoint files. So about git rm-r.ipynv_checkpoints. -f. Alright. Nano.getIgnore. Oh, there isn't any getIgnore. Okay, let's go back to the Voila app. Go to the getIgnore file, and then add all this stuff. So I don't need all this stuff to end up in Git. So let's do git add, and now git commit. So we changed the proc file, remove strange dashes, changed Python version to 3.7.8, and change requirements xt to include all dependencies. It still added all that stuff. Even though I put it in the getIgnore, probably because it was added before. So I'm going to need to do a quick git remove files from the getIgnore. Get rm -- cache. Let's try that. Okay. So now if we could git add. So we got a whole bunch of stuff deleted. That's good. All right. Trying to fix the fact that venv and IPynv checkpoints were saved to Git. So why is it writing so much? Is it really writing the whole VNV directory? Please say no. Because this should not be this big. After this finishes running, I think I might try deleting the whole directory. And then recreating the virtual environment, and actually I don't really even need the virtual environment if I'm just pushing to Heroku. How much longer is this going to take? A long, long time. Because it's installing all those packages. So let's do rm-rvenv. So it's not there anymore. And in files is the git ignore. That's interesting. But also there, what's going on with this files directory? Let's rm-r files. Okay, now git add, git commit, remove env dir, and files dir, and git push legend master. This is still just absolutely enormous. So I'm going to open up my file browser and see if there's a reason for that. So this was documents. Okay. So let's see how big this is. It's 112.3 megs. Unclear to me why, though. Is that because that Git directory is just enormous? Yes, all of this is in the Git directory. So I guess well, maybe we can get rid of the whole Git directory. Okay, this is more like the nuclear option. Do ls-la that we get rid of the Git directory. So let's do rm-r.git, do I have to do? Okay, that wasn't too bad. So the rest of these should be pretty small. And we don't have any .ipynb checkpoints. So we'll do get init again. And then get remote add origin. And then go back to the GitHub repo, copy, paste, git push -f. Oh, I need to do git add commit initial recommit after totally destroying the local git repo. Okay, git push -f origin master. Nice. Okay. So let's go back to here. So we've got git ignore, our proc file. Proc file, you look pretty good. We've got our requirements txt. Looks pretty good. Then our runtime txt, that looks pretty good. Okay. So now we'll run Heroku Login. So I'm going to click Login, but I'm going to go to a private window first. Alright, I logged in. So I can close this whole window down now. And we'll follow the same steps that we did before. So we'll do Heroku create. And this is a different name. Alright. And then we'll do git push Heroku master. So it detected our Python version. And now it's going to have to go through and install all of the packages that were installed with pip. It looks like some of these packages Heroku must have cache versions of or something like that, because it seems like the install is quicker on Heroku than it is when you do it locally. Okay, looks alright. Just waiting for Heroku to say app's done. Alright, so now we'll do Heroku open. Executing 1 of 18. Alright, and it looks like we can click these buttons. That looks okay. Looks like we can click optimize. Now this isn't gonna work because I don't think there's really like a file system on Heroku, and the uploading of the CSV, I don't think that that's really gonna work either. I guess we could quick try it though. So let's open up LibreOffice Calc, and let's do like 1, 2, 3, and 5, 7, 10. Let's do File, Save As, and we'll save this as a CSV file. We'll stick it on the desktop for now. We'll call it sample, and save, and use CSV format, delimiter, that's good. Okay. So let's see if we do upload, open. Yeah, I don't think that that'll really do anything. And that try example 1, that doesn't. But at least we did get this up and running. This like find no such files or directory, that's because of the Jupyter Notebook Magic command with the exclamation point, and you can't really run those on Voila and Heroku, so we can get this out of here by changing the Jupyter Notebook. So maybe that's one of the last things that we'll do before we stop the stream today. Okay, so we'll take Jupyter Notebook. No such file and or directory. Pip install Jupyter. No such file directory as pip. What is going on there? Oh, because there's no virtual environment. So Python 3-m benv and then source benv/bin/activate. Okay, now pip install -r requirements.txt. And this time I'm gonna like make real sure that venv is not allowed and is in our git ignore. Alright, git ignore. So let's scroll down here to the bottom. Yeah, V and V, my Python checkpoints. Okay. So now I'll do Jupyter Notebook. And I'll open up the one-dimensional bin packing notebook here. I'm just going to remove this code cell. And we'll do kernel restart run all. And all of the other code cells run successfully without that one. So I'll do a save. And then go back to the terminal, shut down the Jupyter Notebook, and do an add the cell from the Jupyter Notebook that contained the magic command to remove CSV files. Now we'll do git push origin master. Alright, and now that that's done, let's do git push Heroku master. And this install shouldn't take too long because we didn't change any of the requirements. We just changed the Jupyter Notebook file, but none of the other files. I'll do Heroku open, and we'll see if the app starts up, but this time without our file deleting command. There we go. It is indeed in there. Great. All right. So that's going to finish it up for the stream for today. It went about an hour and a half, but we went over how to deploy a Jupyter Notebook as a website using Voila. And next week we're going to do a different Python web technology. Not exactly sure what it's going to be next, but if you follow me on Twitter, you could send a tweet at me for what Python web technology to do next week. So that finishes the stream for today. hope to see you next week. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.